The settlement was small, built on the edge of a wild alien forest. The people lived in fear of many things: strange beasts, the endless darkness, and most of all, the rumor of the giant. They whispered about it at night, around fires, when the winds carried voices from the woods. Some said it was a monster from another world, taller than two men standing on each other's shoulders. Some said it had claws that could cut through stone and eyes that glowed like burning coals. Children dared not step outside after sunset, and adults warned them. Stay close, the giant hunts in the dark. Daniel, a young man of 22, had heard these stories since he was a boy. At first he laughed, thinking they were just tales to keep kids from wandering too far. But as he grew older, the stories only grew stronger. Farmers spoke of crushed fences. Hunters swore they saw shadows bigger than any animal. And once a patrol never returned from the forest. Their broken gear was found, but not their bodies, every night. Daniel lay awake listening to the sounds outside his cabin. He told himself it was only wind, only animals, but sometimes he felt a deep vibration in the ground, like heavy footsteps shaking the earth. He tried to ignore it, but fear crept into his heart, like cold water. One evening, Daniel sat with the elders in the meeting hall. The fire crackled, throwing shadows across their faces. The oldest man, Harlan, spoke in a slow voice. The giant is not a tale. It walks among us still. It waits for the day one of us is foolish enough to face it. The people nodded in silence. Some crossed their arms tightly, some looked away. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to ask questions, but fear of ridicule held his tongue. Later, that night, Daniel walked home alone under the twin moons. The road cut close to the forest and the air grew heavy. The trees swayed like black towers and the night seemed alive. He kept his eyes forward, but out of the corner of his sight, something moved. A shape, tall, impossibly tall, standing between the trees. His breath caught, his legs wanted to run, but he froze in place. The shape did not move, it only watched. His heart pounded so loud he thought the whole world could hear it. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the shadow slipped back into the woods. Daniel blinked, wondering if his mind had tricked him. He hurried home, bolting the door behind him. His hands trembled as he whispered to himself, "It's real. The giant is real." The next morning, Daniel tried to tell the others, but laughter met his words. "You saw the wind?" One man scoffed. "Or maybe too much ale." Another said. Even the children laughed. But the elder Harlan only looked at Daniel with heavy eyes and said, "So you've seen it too." That night Daniel lay awake again, replaying the moment in his mind. The height, the silence, the weight of its stare. It had not been a dream. Deep down he knew. The giant walked the forest, alive and waiting. His curiosity battled with his fear. The stories painted the alien as a beast of death, yet the way it had only stood there watching made Daniel wonder. If it wanted blood, why had he been spared? Why had it not torn him apart right there on the road? As he drifted to uneasy sleep, a thought echoed in his heart. A thought both terrifying and irresistible. If the giant was real, perhaps it had a reason. And perhaps one day Daniel would be the one to discover it. The morning after his sighting, Daniel could not keep his mind still. He tried working in the fields, but every rustle of the wind made him look to the trees. The giant was out there. He knew it. And no amount of denial could wash the image from his mind. By noon, his friends had already teased him a dozen times. They mocked him for claiming he saw an 8-foot monster watching from the woods. "Maybe it was just your shadow." One laughed. Another added, "Or maybe a tree that learned to walk." Their voices stung, but deep inside Daniel could not laugh with them. What he had seen was no trick of the eyes. That evening Daniel decided to go beyond the farms. Carrying only a lantern and a hunting knife, the forest loomed ahead like a wall of black teeth. He paused, heart racing. but his legs carried him forward. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Curiosity is a flame, Daniel. If you let it burn too long, it will consume you. Still, he stepped deeper into the shadows. The forest was alive with sound, unseen creatures calling to each other, leaves whispering secrets in the night. Daniel's lantern light danced against tree trunks, making long shapes stretch and twist. He walked slowly, ears straining. The deeper he went, the more he felt something heavy in the air, as though unseen eyes followed his every move. Suddenly, a branch snapped. Daniel froze, his lantern swung as he turned, and there it was, towering above the ferns. The giant. Its body glowed faintly as though its skin carried the light of the moon. Muscles shifted beneath its alien frame, and its eyes shone gold in the dark. The lantern in Daniel's hand trembled. His knees wanted to buckle. His breath came in sharp gasps. For a long moment, neither moved. The giant leaned forward, its massive shoulders bending low. Its hand, larger than Daniel's whole chest, brushed against a tree, snapping thick branches as though they were dry twigs. Daniel could feel the heat of its gaze burning into him. He wanted to scream, but no sound escaped. And then something strange happened. The giant did not roar, did not strike. It only stood, watching. The silence between them was heavier than any word. Daniel's fear shifted, not gone, but mixed with something new. Wonder. The alien tilted its head as if studying him. Its chest rose and fell with slow, deep breaths. Daniel realized it was not attacking. It was waiting. Perhaps for him to move. Perhaps for him to decide. His hand slipped to his knife. His fingers curled around the hilt. But in that instant, the giant's golden eyes flashed. Not with rage, but with warning. Daniel felt it in his bones. If he raised the blade, death would follow. So instead, Daniel let go. His hand fell to his side. He took a step back, his lantern swinging low. The giant straightened, rising to its full, terrifying height. Branches scraped against its shoulders. It let out a sound. Not a growl, not a roar, but something like a low hum, a vibration that made Daniel's skin prickle. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the giant stepped backward into the trees. Its form melted into the shadows until only the golden glow of its eyes remained. Slowly, even that faded, swallowed by the dark, Daniel stood frozen, his legs weak. His chest heaved as if he had run for miles. The forest seemed empty again, yet alive with secrets. When he finally stumbled back to the village, dawn was breaking. His clothes were torn by branches, his lantern nearly dead. He rushed into the square, his voice shaking as he told anyone who would listen. I saw it. I saw the giant with my own eyes. The villagers gathered, some curious, some afraid. A few laughed again, calling him a fool. But others listened in silence, their faces pale. Elder Harlan's voice cut through the crowd, slow and heavy. You are still alive, Daniel, he said. That means the giant spared you. The people murmured, some in disbelief, some in awe. Daniel felt no triumph in his survival, only a question that burned brighter than ever. Why had the giant spared him? Why had it let him live when it could have ended him with a single blow? And most of all, what did it want? The village buzzed with uneasy whispers after Daniel's claim. Some mocked him loudly, saying he was chasing shadows, but others lowered their voices and glanced nervously at the forest. The giant had always been a story, something to scare children. Now, with Daniel standing pale and shaken, it no longer felt like a tale. Daniel sat alone outside his cabin. His hands still trembled as he remembered the golden eyes staring through the dark. He had faced death, yet death did not come. That thought made him restless. He should have felt relief, but instead he felt tangled in a mystery. In the morning, a small group gathered at the square. Daniel was called by the elders. Their faces were serious. No hint of laughter this time. Elder Harlan spoke first, his voice rough with age. The giant has been seen before, long ago, always watching, always waiting. Those who tried to fight it never returned. Daniel listened, his chest heavy. It spared me, he whispered. It could have crushed me, but it didn't. The people exchanged glances. Some were afraid, others doubtful. One man, Barrick, stepped forward and spat at the ground. Or maybe it is playing with you, boy. Maybe it waits for the right moment to kill. That is what monsters do. Daniel clenched his fists. No, it wasn't like that, he said. It looked at me. It studied me. If it wanted me dead, I would not be here. The villagers broke into arguments. Some agreed with Barrick, saying the creature was a beast that needed to be destroyed. Others thought Daniel was touched by madness. But in every pair of eyes, Daniel saw the same thing. Fear. That night, as darkness wrapped the settlement, Daniel sat by his window. The forest stood like a wall of shadows. His mind raced. He asked himself the same question again and again. Why had it spared him? Did it see him as different from the others, or was it waiting for something? Sleep did not come easily. When his eyes finally closed, he dreamed of the golden eyes shining in endless black. In his dream, the giant leaned down, and instead of teeth and claws, it whispered words he could not understand. He woke in a sweat, his heart thundering. The next day, Daniel worked beside the fields, but people avoided him. Mothers pulled their children close. Friends who once laughed with him now turned away. To them he was marked, touched by the monster. He felt a weight pressing on him, heavier than any load he had carried. Later he went to see Elder Harlan again. The old man sat by the fire, his eyes lost in the flames. "Why me?" Daniel asked. "Why let me live?" Harlan sighed. The old stories say the giant does not kill without reason. Perhaps it saw something in you. Perhaps you are meant to learn what others cannot. Daniel frowned. "Learn what?" he asked. But Harlan only shook his head. "I do not know, boy. All I know is this. Curiosity has claimed many lives. Be careful." Despite the warning, Daniel's curiosity only grew. Every step he took, every sound of wind in the trees pulled him closer to the forest. It was as if the giant's stare still lingered on him, invisible but real. That evening, Barrick and a few others cornered Daniel near the well. Their faces were twisted with anger. "Stop filling the people's heads with your nonsense," Barrick growled. "You scare the children, you weaken the men. If you keep talking about the giant, we'll make sure you stay quiet." Daniel stood his ground, but inside his stomach churned. "You can ignore the truth," he said. "But the giant is real. Pretend all you want, it won't change what I saw." They shoved him, but before fists could fly, others stepped in to break the fight. The tension in the village had grown too sharp, like a rope ready to snap. That night, Daniel walked the edge of the village, staring at the black line of trees. His fear remained, but it was no longer the kind that kept him frozen. It was a strange pull, a calling, as if something inside the forest waited for him and him alone. The elders' warnings echoed in his head. The villagers' doubts stung his pride. But the giant's silence spoke louder than both. Daniel whispered into the wind. "You could have killed me, why didn't you?" No answer came, only the rustle of leaves. Yet in his heart, Daniel knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The fall. Night was heavy with silence. The forest stood dark and endless, and Daniel's heart beat louder than his footsteps. He had ignored the warnings, ignored the doubts, and now he walked alone into the shadows, a lantern in his hand, a small blade at his side, but no courage in his chest, only stubborn curiosity. He followed the same trail as before, the one that curved past the farms and sank deep into the woods. The trees bent together above him, there, branches forming a roof that shut out the moonlight. The air was damp, filled with the scent of earth and leaves. Every sound echoed. The crack of a twig, the whisper of grass, the soft hiss of his own breath. Daniel's steps slowed. His lantern light wavered against the trunks. He thought of turning back, of running home. But a strange pull inside him pressed forward like invisible hands urging him on. He could almost feel the giant's eyes waiting, watching. Then the silence broke. A low hum vibrated through the trees. It was not the sound of wind, not the cry of an animal. It was deeper, alive. The ground beneath his boots seemed to tremble with it. Daniel's grip tightened on the lantern, his chest filled with dread and wonder together, and then he saw it. The giant stepped out from behind a massive tree, its body tall as the branches, shoulders broad as a house wall. Its skin glowed faint silver under the faint moonlight, and its golden eyes pierced through the dark. Daniel froze, every muscle stiff. The lantern light flickered across the alien's face. Its features were both strange and noble, sharp lines, carved into a form that was not human yet not monstrous. The alien moved closer, each step heavy but controlled. It stopped only a few paces away, towering over him. Daniel's throat felt dry. His blade seemed smaller than a toy. He knew that if the giant wished, he would be broken in an instant. The creature lowered its head, staring directly into his eyes. Daniel's knees trembled. He wanted to fall, but some invisible force held him up. The golden eyes were not filled with hatred, they carried weight as if they held memories too old to name. The giant's hand rose, slowly, carefully. Daniel gasped. His mind screamed for him to run, but his body was locked in place. The massive hand came closer until it hovered just above his shoulder. The air grew warm. The hum in the trees grew louder. Then, with a gentleness Daniel never expected, the giant touched him. Just a single touch. A finger larger than his arm rested lightly on his shoulder. Daniel shivered, not from fear but from something else, something he could not name. In that moment a voice thundered in his head, not spoken by lips, not carried by air, but echoing deep inside his mind. You are not enemy. Daniel's eyes widened. He stumbled back, but the voice followed him. It was broken, heavy, each word like stone rolling through his skull, yet it was clear. The alien had spoken to him. You live. Watch, the voice said. Daniel clutched his chest, breathing fast. His lantern shook in his hand. You can speak? He whispered aloud, though he was not sure the creature would understand. The giant tilted its head, almost like a curious child. It let out a slow, rumbling sound that echoed through the trees. Its eyes softened, or maybe Daniel only imagined it. Suddenly, branches snapped behind them. Daniel turned sharply. His lantern lit the faces of two hunters from the village. They had followed him in secret, and now they stared in horror at the towering alien. "Monster!" one shouted, raising his weapon. "No!" Daniel cried. "Stop, it's not!" But before his words finished, the giant moved. Its hand shifted, pulling Daniel behind it like a shield. Its body stood between him and the hunters. A deep growl vibrated from its chest, warning them away. The hunters froze, their courage fading under the sight of the massive creature. They backed away slowly, muttering prayers, their footsteps crashing through the forest until only silence remained. Daniel looked up at the alien. His heart thundered in his chest. The golden eyes looked back at him, steady and calm. "You, safe." The voice echoed again in his mind. Then the giant turned, stepping back into the shadows of the forest. Within moments it was gone, leaving Daniel alone with his pounding heart. He fell to his knees, the lantern slipping from his hand. The light flickered weakly on the ground, his body shook, not from fear but from awe. The alien had spoken. It had protected him. It had touched him without harm. And for the first time, Daniel no longer saw a monster. He saw something greater, something that carried secrets too deep for his world to understand. He whispered into the dark, "Why me?" But only the whisper of leaves answered. Daniel could not sleep for many nights after the encounter. His mind replayed the moment again and again. The touch on his shoulder, the voice inside his head, the giant shielding him from the hunters. None of it felt like the actions of a monster. It felt like something else, something deeper. The village was divided. The hunters who had seen the giant spread fear among the people. They told everyone that the creature was dangerous, that it had almost killed them. Their words twisted the truth, but fear was louder than reason. Mothers kept their children indoors. Men sharpened their blades. The village prepared for war. Daniel, however, felt the truth burning in his chest. He knew the giant was not their enemy. It could have destroyed the hunters easily, yet it did not. Instead, it had chosen to protect him. That single act was enough to turn Daniel's fear into trust. One evening, unable to hold his questions any longer, Daniel returned to the forest. This time he carried no weapon, only a lantern and the courage in his heart. He followed the same path, his steps steady. He did not call out, but the forest seemed to guide him. After some time the hum returned, the deep sound that made the trees shiver. The giant stepped into the clearing. Its golden eyes glowed like suns trapped in shadow. For a long moment neither moved. Then Daniel whispered, "Why me? Why did you spare me?" The giant tilted its head and the voice thundered once again inside Daniel's mind. "War left me alone." Daniel froze. His heart raced. The alien's words were broken, slow, but they carried weight. Guard, forest, protect humans from dark. The voice continued. Daniel's breath caught. He struggled to understand. "You are a guardian?" he asked. The alien gave a slow nod. Its massive chest rose and fell with a heavy sigh. The truth spilled out piece by piece. The giant was not a beast but a soldier from another world. It had fought in a war long before the humans settled here. The war had ended, but the alien had been left behind. Its duty was to protect, not to harm. It had lived in silence, watching from the shadows, keeping other dangers away. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He had grown up fearing the stories, but now he saw the loneliness in the alien's golden eyes. It was not a monster. It was a prisoner of its own duty. "Why reveal yourself to me?" Daniel asked. His voice was low, afraid to break the fragile moment. The giant's answer came slowly. "You listen. Others fear." Daniel understood then. It had chosen him because he was the only one willing to see beyond the fear. The only one who dared to wonder instead of hate. But even as the truth formed in his heart, a sharp sound cut through the night. From the distance he heard voices, angry and loud. Daniel turned. His blood ran cold. A group of villagers armed with spears and rifles stepped into the clearing, their eyes wide with terror at the sight of the alien. "Kill it!" one shouted. "Before it kills us!" Daniel raised his hands, his voice desperate. "No, stop, it's not what you think." But fear had already consumed them. The hunters lifted their weapons, their hands trembling. The alien stood still, towering, its golden eyes narrowed. It did not move to attack, only to shield Daniel once again. Daniel's heart pounded. He rushed forward, standing between the giant and his people. "Listen to me," he cried. "It is not our enemy. It has been protecting us all these years. It has kept the darkness away. The villagers hesitated, but their fear was stronger than his words. One man pulled the trigger. A shot rang out. The beam of light cut through the air. Daniel flinched. But the alien moved. Its massive arm rose like a wall. The shot struck its skin, leaving a glowing mark. The alien grunted, but it did not strike back. It only stood, shielding Daniel with its own body. The villagers gasped. Some stumbled back. For the first time, they saw not a monster, but a protector willing to bleed for a human. Daniel turned, his voice sharp with fire. Look at it, it could crush us all, but it does not. Can you not see? It is not here to kill us. It is here to guard us. The villagers wavered, their courage faltering. Some lowered their weapons, their eyes filled with doubt. The alien remained silent, golden eyes fixed on the humans waiting. Daniel could feel the weight of the choice pressing on everyone. This was the truth revealed. The giant was not a creature of death, but a guardian bound by a promise long forgotten. And now, with its secret exposed, Daniel knew the fight was no longer between human and alien, it was between fear and trust. The clearing was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the faint hum from the giant's chest and the nervous breathing of the villagers. The alien stood tall, wounded but unshaken, its body glowing faintly where the weapon blast had struck. Daniel's heart hammered. He knew one wrong move could turn this night into blood. The villagers gripped their weapons tightly. Fear twisted their faces. Their eyes darted from the giant's massive form to Daniel's desperate stance. One of them shouted, "Step away, Daniel, that thing will crush you, we have to end it now." Daniel shook his head, his voice cracked but firm. "No, you don't see. It could have killed me many times. It could have killed all of us. But it hasn't. It is not the enemy. But fear has sharp claws and it dug deep into the villagers." Barrick, the loudest of them, snarled, "It tricked you, boy. It waits until we trust it, then it will destroy us all." His hands shook as he raised his rifle again. Daniel's breath caught. He saw the weapon aimed. He moved without thinking, throwing himself between the barrel and the alien. "If you fire," he shouted, "you will have to kill me first." The villagers gasped. Some lowered their weapons in shock, but Barrick's face burned with rage. "You've lost your mind," he barked. "You'd protect a monster over your own people." Daniel's eyes burned with fire. "I protect the truth," he said. "You live in fear, but I have seen what you refuse to see. It is not our death, it is our guardian." Behind him, the alien rumbled. The sound was deep, steady, not anger but warning. Its golden eyes scanned the humans. It was ready to act if needed, but still it held its ground. Not attacking, only protecting. Then the night exploded with chaos. A second shot fired. Not from Barrick, but from another terrified villager. The beam struck the giant's side. A cry, low and painful, rolled from its throat. The sound made the trees tremble. The alien staggered back. Daniel spun around, panic filling him. "Stop, please stop," he begged. But fear had broken the dam. The villagers screamed, some attacking, others fleeing. Spears flew, rifles fired. The clearing lit up with flashes of deadly light. The giant roared, a sound that shook the very ground. It swung its massive arm, not to kill, but to knock aside the attacks. Trees splintered as blows struck. The air burned with energy blasts. Daniel ducked and covered his head, his ears ringing from the chaos. Through it all, the alien never struck to kill. Every move was defensive. It shielded its body, blocked attacks, pushed Daniel behind its massive legs. Daniel saw the truth in every action. It was fighting not out of hate, but out of duty. "Look," Daniel screamed at the villagers. "Open your eyes. It is protecting us even as you heard it." But fear was blind. The more they attacked, the more their terror grew, and the more they believed they were right. Suddenly, Barrick charged forward with a spear, aiming straight for Daniel. The alien reacted instantly. Its massive arm swept down, pushing Daniel out of the way. The spear struck the alien's chest instead. The weapon snapped, the tip buried deep. The giant staggered, a shudder rippling through its body. Golden light flickered in its eyes. It let out another thunderous sound, low and mournful. Daniel cried out, rushing to its side. "No, no, stay with me," he begged, pressing his hands against the glowing wound. The villagers froze. The sight of blood or whatever flowed from the alien stopped them cold. The monster they had feared was bleeding for a human. The forest fell into silence again. Only the giants' heavy breaths and Daniel's frantic voice filled the air. Slowly, the alien straightened. Its golden eyes swept across the terrified humans, and then it spoke into all their minds at once. "Not enemy. Never enemy." The villagers stumbled back. Some dropped their weapons, their faces pale. For the first time, they heard the voice that Daniel had known. For the first time, they understood. The alien swayed, its body weak, yet it stood tall, refusing to fall before them. Daniel looked at his people, his voice raw. "Can you not see? It has protected us even now. It bleeds because of you, yet it does not strike back. What kind of monster shows mercy like this?" No one answered. The villagers stared, their fear cracking under the weight of truth. The air was thick with silence, a silence heavier than the battle itself. Daniel stood beside the alien, his hand pressed against its arm. His heart beat with fury and hope. He had faced fear and lived. Now it was their turn to choose. Would they cling to fear? Or would they see the guardian that stood before them? The clearing was quiet after the storm of fear. The villagers stood frozen, their weapons lowered, their courage broken. In front of them, the alien still stood tall, though its body shook with pain. Golden light flickered weakly from its wound. Each breath it took was heavy, yet it did not fall. Daniel's hands pressed against the alien's arm, his eyes wide with desperation. "Stay with me," he whispered. His voice cracked as he looked back at the people. "Do you not see? It bleeds for us, not against us. It could have crushed every one of you, but it didn't. It chose mercy." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Some still trembled with fear. Others lowered their eyes with shame. For the first time, doubt began to break the wall of terror that had ruled them. Elder Harlan stepped forward, leaning on his staff. His old eyes were wet. "The boy is right," he said softly. "This is no monster. It is a guardian, and we are blind fools." The words hung in the air like a weight lifted. The villagers began to lower their weapons completely. Some dropped them to the ground. The forest was still, as if it too was listening. The alien turned its gaze toward Daniel, its golden eyes, dim but gentle. In Daniel's mind, the voice returned, weaker now, but still strong enough to fill him. "Protect your people." Daniel shook his head fiercely. "No, you protect us. You are the one who has been watching all along. You can't leave us." The alien placed its massive hand gently against Daniel's chest. The warmth from its touch spread through him. Not painful, but calming. "My time ending," the voice whispered in his thoughts. "But you will remember." Daniel's throat tightened. He felt tears sting his eyes. "No, I can't do this alone. You can't just vanish." But the giant only rumbled softly, almost like a father comforting a child. It stepped back, its huge frame swaying. Slowly it turned, moving toward the shadows of the forest. Each step echoed with finality. "Wait!" Daniel cried, stumbling after it. But the alien stopped, looking back one last time. Its golden eyes met his, and for a moment Daniel felt a flood of emotions not his own. Loneliness, duty, sorrow, and a strange kind of hope. Then the alien's voice came one final time. You lived till a tale. And with that it stepped into the darkness. Its glowing form melted into the trees, until only silence remained. Daniel stood there for a long time, the forest pressing close around him. His chest ached. His legs felt weak. The villagers gathered behind him, no longer shouting, no longer angry. Their faces were pale with awe and guilt. Elder Harlan placed a trembling hand on Daniel's shoulder. The giant trusted you, he whispered. Now the burden is yours. The villagers returned to the settlement in silence. No songs, no laughter, only the memory of what they had seen. For nights afterward, no one dared speak ill of the giant. They had seen its blood, its mercy, and its final act of protection. As for Daniel, he carried the weight of that night forever. He often walked to the edge of the forest, staring into the trees, hoping for another glimpse of golden eyes. But the giant never returned. The woods grew quiet, as though it had vanished from the world. Years passed. The story of the 8-foot alien spread beyond the small settlement. Visitors came, eager to hear from the man who had stood face to face with the giant. Daniel told them the truth. He told them of its silence, its strength, its mercy, and every time he ended the tale with the same words. It could have killed me, it could have destroyed us all. But it chose to let me live, it chose to protect us. That is no monster. That is a guardian. Children grew up hearing the tale. Elders nodded in respect when his words filled the hall. Some still doubted, as people always do. But the memory of that night never died. Daniel himself grew older, his hair turning gray, his steps slowing. Yet his eyes never lost the fire he had gained from that encounter. On clear nights he would sit beneath the stars and whisper, "You told me to protect them, I tried, I hope I did not fail you." And though the forest never answered, though the golden eyes never shone again, Daniel felt something in the wind. A hum in the earth, a warmth in his chest. He knew the guardian spirit lingered, watching from beyond the shadows. The tale of the 8-foot alien lived on, not as a story of terror, but as a story of mercy. A story of fear turned to trust, of hatred turned to awe, and Daniel's voice carried it forward, again and again, so that no one would forget. So that the world would always remember the night a human faced the 8-foot alien, and lived to tell the tale.